Hello and welcome back to the Discover Virginia Beach podcast. We are in the middle of season 2. We are setting out to discover everything that the Virginia Beach area has to offer for both locals and tourists alike. Today, I'm joined by a super special guest, Keith Toler. Keith has been the leading destination marketing program for nearly 30 years, taking the reins in Portsmouth, Virginia for the second time in April 2019. Keith was Portsmouth's first tourism director, fun fact, from 1992 until 2001. He then went on to be the executive director of Bucks County Conference and Visitors Bureau, located in the countryside of Philadelphia from 2002 until 2007. Next, he journeyed west and served as an executive director of the Santa Fe, New Mexico Convention and Visitor Bureau. Keith is now back in Virginia 7 years later after serving at Chateau Morissette, and he's happy to be representing Portsmouth again and working in partnership with all the cities of coastal Virginia. Keith, welcome to the podcast, and of course, welcome back to the Portsmouth, Virginia Beach area.
Hey, thank you so much. It's great to be back. I love this area. I've spent 10 years here and left, and here I am again. So I love it if I'm back in the same place.
Absolutely. Now, judging by your very impressive bio, you obviously have made it around the block. For our listeners who may not be totally familiar with the destination marketing career and the inner workings of what exactly you're working on, would you mind sharing with us a high-level overview what that specifically entails?
Sure. Well, working with the larger bureaus like Santa Fe and Bucks County and Portsmouth back in the day when we had multiple event hotels, we had a thriving sales office. We had you also want to have public relations and marketing and convention sales. You're bringing in convention groups, you're bringing in bus groups, you're bringing in different like military associations, that type of thing. So in addition to trying to work with the local, the visitor who comes, just the individual visitor, the consumer, we also work with a lot of groups, and that's what tourism at a high level is all about. We really want to put heads in beds and butts in seats.
Absolutely. Just getting people excited about checking out your city. Now, Keith, is this a passion of yours that something you always had for destination marketing, or did it kind of come about through years of trial and error? Would you mind sharing us more about your relationship with destination marketing?
Well, I kind of fell into it back in the day. I was working for an ad agency in Tennessee, in Memphis, and we landed the Tennessee tourism account. And so I knew nothing about tourism before that. And so I started working on the Tennessee tourism account, and then I was able to bring in some local hotels and that kind of thing. So I learned a lot about it. And then I knew I wanted to come back to Virginia. And the position in Portsmouth in 1992 was open. They had never had a program. And so I ended up interviewing and getting hired for the position. And I was able, in a fortunate, to build the program from scratch. It had nothing. It started out with just me. And I was able to build up to a staff of 10 people.
I love that. And you were part of Portsmouth's first tourism board in general that the city had ever had, correct?
They had never had tourism before. They brought us in under Parks and Recreation. We were a city employee as a Parks and Recreation. And then we moved out into our own department after that, became the Portsmouth Convention and Visitors Bureau. We moved out of City Hall, moved down onto Crawford Street, right at the corner of Crawford and High, which is a central location for Old Town Portsmouth. And we had our offices there. We ran a visitor center at the North Landing at what was then Portside. I don't know if you were around then, but Portside, 11 open air restaurants, live music 5 nights a week. We had a cruise ship that ran the Chesapeake Bay that came in twice a week in the summertime. So we were, really busy and thriving back then.
I love that, Keith. So you jump on board, come from Tennessee to Portsmouth. During your time, and I want to look at this collectively throughout your bio, your resume, so to speak, has there been any specific campaigns or promotions that really stand out to you personally as being something that you are, when you look back on, you're like, yes, I'm proud of that. Yes, that may change. Are there any specific examples that come to mind?
I can give you one example that I think everything I'm doing in Portsmouth right now is making a difference. But let me give you one example from Bucks County. It was back during when the gas prices were just going through the roof back in the 2000s, early 2000s. And we did a gas giveaway. We went to New Jersey and set up, and we bought people gas for their car. And the whole program was $10 for $10 worth of gas is enough to get you from New York or New Jersey to, well, it got picked up by all of the New York stations. We got all of this extra publicity for it. We had lines around the block that of people, and the police had to come and cut off lines. It was just that popular. People looking for $10 worth of gas.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
that was a fun, it was a fun
creative
promotion.
what a creative strategy. I mean, especially, I mean, this is pre-social media, pre-computer day. I mean, we're talking print ads, billboards, and word of mouth, right? That you leverage
Correct.
to, buzz all this excitement up. So I love that, Keith. That definitely, I can see why that stands out for you.
Homewood Suites, when I was working at the ad agency,
Yeah. What was that
we
about?
sent live homing pigeons to people. We had these special cages built. We sent the homing pigeons, and it was designed to get developers to develop more Homewood Suites properties.
You sent live pigeons to people.
Yes.
To
And the note says, "Let the pigeon go, it knows its way home." And
what was that again? What was the slogan?
Let the pigeon, it's a homing pigeon. Let the pigeon go, it knows its way home, Homewood Suites.
I love that. I love that.
That was a fun promotion.
How many pigeons in all did you guys have? I mean, were they any like?
Oh, it was very select. It was a very select audience because we were looking at hotel developers only. So I think we sent out maybe 15 or 20 pigeons throughout for the promotion, but we got some bites, so to speak.
Love that. Well, hopefully nobody was bitten in the process other than a good deal and some money being made for sure. So Keith, I love and I really appreciate you sharing all of your experience because you are literally a master in destination marketing. And for many people who don't know, there are a lot of intricacies that are involved because you're not only handling the business side of things, but also the government side of things. And business and government have two different speeds and two different momentums at which they propel forward. Take us back. It's 2019. You are back in Portsmouth as the Assistant Director of Museums and Tourism. Can you share with us where Portsmouth is in that moment? And then, of course, in a broader note, where is Portsmouth relative to Virginia Beach?
Gotcha. Well, Virginia Beach surpasses everyone in the state as far as tourism revenue that comes into the market. We look at lodging tax, we look at meals tax, admissions tax, and Virginia Beach, hands down, is going to win that battle throughout no one tries to compete with Virginia Beach. But what we do try to do is we found when COVID hit that people were looking for smaller destinations, more out of the way destinations. And that gave Portsmouth an opportunity as being the smallest of the 7 cities in Hampton Roads. Come and experience on a very walkable scale. You can be outside, you don't have to be around crowds. And it gave us a real opportunity in 2020 when that happened to keep people coming in and keep our hotels, going. But before, 2019, when I got here, there was no program. They had let the program stop back in the early, I think around 2010, they had let the program stop. So there had not been a tourism program in Portsmouth for about 8 or 9 years. And sorry, I've got a cold. And so when I got here, I had to start rebuilding all of that. It was just the Renaissance Hotel that our major hotel that was out there marketing. And the pavilion had been shut down because of some structural issues. And so they weren't even able to have a full season. So they were just now starting to come back. And so they were the 2 lead marketers for the city and bringing people into the city. And so, my job when I first came in was what can I do to support the efforts that are already here? And then what can I do to build additional product? And so one of the first things that we did was we hired a group of living history reenactors, entertainers. They don't like to be called reenactors. They are entertainers.
Absolutely.
And they will go and sing bawdy sea shanties, and they walk up and down the street in their costumes and tell the stories of Portsmouth. And people love that. And that was one of the first things that we did. This is a group called History Alive. And now they have grown to such where they have, I think, close to 20 different actors who, they stroll for us. Plus they do tours on their own. They've actually started working with our oldest African-American church here in Portsmouth to do their tours for them as part of the Underground Railroad tours for the city. So a lot of growth and development came out of that one, would you stroll the streets and entertain our guests kind of thing.
That is incredible. One incredible on just kind of the missed opportunity there, like you said, when the program shut down itself. But I want to focus specifically on when you entered back in the scene, Keith, because we wouldn't be having this conversation if you didn't. I mean, I have a love for Portsmouth. I mean, that's where my wife and her family are from, and there's lots of opportunity for conversation, and of course, it's a great location, as you mentioned. It's not a Virginia Beach, but it is one of the more, unfortunately, lesser known places that are kind of a nice little hideaway, because you're not too far from the beaches. Still, you can still get to the beaches. You have the Waterside District in Norfolk, and so with that, Keith, you start these initiatives. You start telling the story of Portsmouth. I'd love to know from you personally, what got you to come back to the Portsmouth area?
I Portsmouth is a real community. I mean, I love the community here. I love being a part of the community. I still had friends here from before when I was here, and it was great to come and reconnect with them. But it's always the downtown, the old town community here, the business community, the residential community. It's a small group. We're only 97,000 people in the city. Versus the hundreds of thousands in some of the other cities. So I think that that kind of brings us all together and makes us a little tighter, I think.
I love that. And for our listeners who may be visitors to the Virginia Beach area, Virginia Beach is one of 7 cities known as Hampton Roads. Roughly 1 million people, Portsmouth representing, as you mentioned, Keith, roughly 100,000 of those folks. And so with that, Keith, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of opportunity throughout your day to engage with community members, to work on projects. But I'd love to hear it from you. What does an average day look like for you, working for the city and, of course, supporting Portsmouth and its tourism department?
Well, one of the big things that I do is manage the social media for tourism. Now, there's different social media accounts for the city. The city has its own that focuses on residents, but mine is focusing on bringing tourists in. So one of the first things I did when I got here was to build a social media presence on Facebook and Instagram, and we have since grown. I think our Facebook is now over 9,000 followers since we started, which is pretty good for Portsmouth. And it continues to grow, and our Instagram is continuing to grow as well. So that was one of the first things that we did, because it was an effective way of reaching people in terms of advertising and letting people know our message. And it's important to me to attract the day tripper from Virginia Beach to our attractions. And what I learned in doing that is we have a lot of folks who are from Virginia Beach who will come over and do a date night in Portsmouth and actually spend the night, because they can get home to their kids the next day real quick. And, and so they'll come and do dinner at one of our restaurants, maybe go to the Commodore Theater, or they just, will come and just hang out and listen to live music or whatever. Everything is so walkable here, and they like that. And so they'll come and stay at the Renaissance one night and, and just make a date night of it. So that's been fun. But yeah, the day trippers are really important. But then I looked at where else are our visitors coming from? And Richmond was the next market that we really looked at. And we started looking into Richmond. And, Richmond and Hampton Roads have a challenging relationship, always have, between the two metro areas. But still, at the same time, we ended up seeing a lot of people coming down for concerts at the Pavilion, or coming down for bringing their kids down to see the Children's Museum. We have the largest children's museum in the state. And so, while Richmond has one, ours is bigger, and they wanted to do something a little different. So that was important. And from there, we started branching out and looking at Washington, D.C., because there's a lot of people with disposable income in Washington who are looking for a quick little 4-hour drive weekend getaways. And they might want to do something that has the access to an urban area, but the feel of a small town. And that's where Portsmouth really excels. We have, if you look across the river, you see the huge Norfolk skyline, which is really impressive at nighttime when it's all lit up. But over here on Portsmouth, you have the old town, the houses built in the 1700s and 1800s that you just walk through the neighborhoods, or you walk up High Street, and everything is mom and pop over here. And so I think it gives them a real different view of what Hampton Roads is all about.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. It sounds like you are juggling a lot of different plates on a lot of different saucers here, for lack of a better analogy here, but you have a lot of moving parts. When it comes specifically to the day-to-day, how many people are you working alongside of you to manage the Facebook group, to get along with Richmond, to help promote things going on in the Northern Virginia area? And then, of course, keeping in mind our locals and residents here, just letting them know, like, hey, we do exist. We do have the largest,
Right.
museum. We do have an incredibly competitive walking neighborhood that, quite frankly, Virginia Beach oceanfront is mastered, but the rest of Virginia Beach is somewhat still lagging behind it.
Right.
Who else do you work with, and what is that? What else does that look like?
We work with the Old Town Business Association. That's one of the few business associations that we have, and they represent all of the businesses here in Old Town. So we work with them on events and projects. I maintain an events calendar. There's one other person that works in tourism with us. We do oversee the Visitor Center, which is located in the Old Sports Hall of Fame building, and so we do kind of oversee that, but the day-to-day operations is run by the retail segment because there's a large gift shop. If you want anything with Portsmouth logo on it or anything Portsmouth related, that's the place to go and shop. We work with our boating community. We're on the Intracoastal Waterway. We're mile marker 0 of the Intracoastal, and so the yachts and the boats that we have coming through, we work with our marinas. We work with and then we work with just the boating associations, because there's free docking at the foot of High Street. We're probably going to move away from overnight docking, but there's free docking during the daytime right now, and overnight too at the moment, but we'll probably move away from that because it puts us in competition with the marinas who are looking for to sell their transient slips. So that's something that we've got to try to kind of balance, because we want the boaters coming in, but at the same time we also want our marinas to be successul. So
No,
you're
I love that. Yeah,
always
absolutely.
constantly trying to balance what you're doing.
Yeah. So from and I know you'd mentioned this earlier, there are so many different parts and people you're working with, but you're actively trying to promote things to do, things that are happening in and around your city. I know you mentioned the event calendar. And of course, like every episode I mentioned to folks, everything that Keith and the city of Portsmouth have going on will be in the link in the description below. But right now for our conversation, would you mind highlighting where folks can go to find the event calendars? And then of course, what types of events can they be looking out for throughout the years, especially during the winter and cooler months?
What the place you want to go is portsmouthcalendar.com. That's the main one. And what you will find there, we originally started just promoting, just putting out there the main events, but now you can go there and find out who's playing at what bar on a Friday night. We really try to work and maintain that calendar so that it is an informational tool, because when visitors are here, if they go to that calendar and say, what can I do tonight? Boom, it's right there. They can say, oh, well, such and such band is playing at this bar, which is just right up the street. And maybe we'll walk up there, or such and such movie is playing at the historic Commodore Theater, and they want to go into this Art Deco theater that's still running, showing first run movies. So you never know what kind of events you're going to find on there. We also have like the Old Town Ghost Walk, some of our signature events, the Holiday Music Festival, a post such as Portsmouth, which is a historic reenactment, our Seawall Festival, Race to Cock Island, all of the major events like that. But you can also find out what's happening in the little mom and pop restaurants and what bands are playing where. We make sure that we promote what's happening at the casino. We look at what's happening at bars in Churchland. So it's not just Old Town. We try to look at all parts of Portsmouth and include those events. They're coming up. Special events inside churches. That's another one. If they're having a special concert, one of our churches does a noonday concert. So you can look there to find out what's playing at noon on a Monday afternoon.
Wow.
And we really think that that's important to be able to have that kind of information all in one place.
I love it, Keith. Firing off the hip here. I mean, showing time and time again just how many different things are happening in Portsmouth. I really appreciate you highlighting that, because quite frankly, with the intercoastal waterways, and then of course, I reference back to Captain Andy Sutter with the Freedom Boat Club, who we had earlier on in the podcast. Definitely check out that video if you want to see the inner workings of the waterways. And then of course, the Commodore Theater, the Renaissance Hotel in Old Town. There are a lot of signature pieces happening throughout this community that folks have really poured such like yourself, their heart and souls into preserving. And obviously, community is a large part of that. In general, I'd love to know from you, Keith, being a part of local government, it has a lot of community, local led involvement. How has the local community specifically influenced the local government in your department? And are there any initiatives or current changes that stand out to you that you're all currently working towards?
Well, when I work with community, well, there's a lot of community volunteer groups and commissions, and so we're working right now with the Virginia 250. You know, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence will be here in 2026. So our community is planning for that right now. We also work with organizations like Support Portsmouth Public Art. That's a volunteer group that looks at putting public art throughout the city, and we've got some great murals. We've got a whole program called Wings. We've got a program called Toads. It's all based on a children's book, and it's trying to involve children in art. And so there's a scavenger hunt to find the toads up and down High Street that kids can go do after they leave the children's museum. And again, the Wings are another one. They're happening all over the country, but we have a lot of wings here. And then we work with like the Museum and Fine Arts Commission. They are really trying to promote the Portsmouth Arts and Cultural District, which runs up High Street all the way to Elm and connects with the Color Community Library Museum on Elm Street. Which is another one of the historic museums that we have here in Portsmouth. So they are really working on that. The economic development has received a grant to do an innovation district. So we will work with our Department of Economic Development to try to see what we can do to put traffic up in the innovation district, the new innovation district that's coming. We have different historic neighborhoods. We have Craddock, which does an annual 4th of July thing that's been going on for 105 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we have so the Old Town is the oldest of our historic districts, but then you've got Parkview, Port Norfolk, Craddock, and Truxton. So there's 5 registered historic districts here in Portsmouth in a 49 square mile area, 5 historic neighborhoods. And so we work with those neighborhood organizations and civic leagues when they're producing events. The Port Norfolk Civic League, they do a porch crawl every year, and they also every other year do a holiday homes tour, which they're doing this year, and we'll work with them on that as well. So, you know, we try to work with the civic leagues, we try to work with the different nonprofit groups that are around, and then we also work with our local government departments.
That is incredible, and Keith, of course, you know this all has to do with your many decades of experience, understanding the destination marketing landscape and figuring out what type of initiatives and goals should exist to help propel a city forward, and also to educate people on what there is to do, despite what everybody might say or feel about the community that's not a part of it. When it comes specifically to shared goals, missions, or values, are there any common themes, slogans, or stances that the city and these community leagues and volunteers have really merged together on? And if so, is there anything you'd like to share about them specifically?
Well, I would say that there's probably not consensus everywhere at this point. I think we're looking to build consensus, and there's some things being considered. In tourism, we promote Portsmouth as being Virginia's historic seaport. In our advertising, we talk about go different. Visit Portsmouth. You may have seen some of those ads that are running. So that's one of the things that we do. Economic development, they're talking more to a business audience, trying to bring in larger manufacturing jobs and that kind of thing. So their take is going to be a little bit different. But we're undergoing a community survey right now, and some new branding may be coming out of that in the very near future. So we'll look to see. But I went ahead and trademarked Virginia's historic seaport. I think that's a great, Portsmouth is home to the oldest naval shipyard in America. It was the original naval base. Everybody equates the naval base with Norfolk, and of course they should, but it was the first one. When the Navy was first formed in 1792, it was the naval base. That's where all the ships came at that point. So we are Virginia's historic seaport here, and we're a big part of the Port of Virginia. We get some of the largest containerized cargo ships that in the world can come here now. We've dredged, and our facilities can handle it. So it's pretty major here what we do on our waterways.
Absolutely, and just the industrial nature, and also the the civic nature of your job is so interesting and fascinating, especially just how everything is intertwined together to help preserve and continue the legacy, as you mentioned before, the most historic naval seaport, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Virginia's historic seaport. Yes.
Virginia Historic Seaport. There we go. There's the name of the episode right there. Well, with that said, Keith, I know you got to get back to work. You got to get back to keeping everything running on the Portsmouth side. But I do have one last section for you, and that's going to be traditionally we do rapid fires around here, but with you having a unique role and opportunity, with us having a unique role and opportunity to speak on a personal level and also the government level, I have some hot take questions for you. These are questions that I pulled my audience, my sphere, and people I know, like, and trust, just to figure out if we could get some insight into possibly the other side of a conversation that we don't normally get to hear from, the government side. With that said, Keith, are you ready?
I'll give it a try.
All right. First one is Portsmouth Casino, and I'll just let you take it from there.
Portsmouth Casino. It's bringing a lot of revenue to the city. They're doing about, right now, they do about $21 to $22 million a month at the casino, which is driving about 1.2 million into the tax coffers here directly from the casino, not to mention the additional meals and lodging tax that are being collected. They do concerts over at the casino, and so there's an admissions tax that's also being paid. All of the hot buttons for tourism. So I think that the casino is a great asset for the city. We have been promoting the casino in the Raleigh market. The casino, I think, promotes pretty much within 50 miles of Portsmouth, and we wanted to take that a little further to try to drive more overnight visitation. And so we started in Raleigh. North Carolina doesn't really have casinos, so we're the closest one. Now that the one in Danville is open, that we've got some competition there, but let's see how it goes. I think the casino is a real asset for the city.
I love it. And are there any casino hotels coming to the casino specifically in the near future?
There is a
Any teasers of
casino
that?
that's in the plans. Yes, I understand. I think they'll be breaking ground here pretty soon on a new casino hotel. I don't have the details of how many rooms or what will be there, but they do have the event space that can support the hotel as well. So they can be bringing in conventions too. So we'll have two convention conference hotels. We'll have the Renaissance Portsmouth Norfolk Waterfront Hotel with its wonderful conference facilities, and then we can add this to the mix as well.
Love it. Love it. Thanks, Keith. All right, next one for you. Downtown tunnel and tolls.
We hate the tolls. Everybody hates the tolls. Everybody in Hampton Roads hates the tolls. It always surprises me, though, when I hear from people from Virginia Beach or Hampton who say they don't have an easy pass. How do you live anywhere and not have an easy pass anymore? Because you've got easy pass if you go to the Eastern Shore. You've got an easy pass in DC. You need an easy pass in Richmond. So, of course, you're going to have one here. So, yes, I live here in Old Town. Anytime I cross the river and go to Norfolk, I'm going to pay that toll, and I resent it. But then every time I drive on the Martin Luther King extender and get, through the 164 and all of that new road construction and the traffic relief that we realize from that, then I'm thinking, you know what, it might be worth it in the long run. And they've now offered for people who make, I think, under 65,000, they will reduce the toll amounts by 50%. If you travel there locally, you just sign up for the program.
Yeah, absolutely. That's with I believe it's called
Elizabeth River Crossing.
Elizabeth River Crossing. Yes, thank you, Keith. Yeah, they just increased it actually to 60K this year. But yeah, you can get toll relief fund, and then of course with and unfortunately, we have been, this area, Hampton Roads, has been a small town for much of its life, and now that we're starting to see the growth pains of a small city become a medium and larger size city, we do have to keep up with the infrastructure. So although we may resent it in some regards, it is a necessary growth pain. I think that is important to allowing more people to access throughout the Hampton Roads area for sure.
That's
Keith,
right.
Frederick Boulevard. What's going on Frederick Boulevard, Keith?
Frederick Boulevard has seen a lot of growth over there on Frederick. I mean, you've got the Walmart that came in several years ago, the new Super Kroger that's over there. You've got a lot of chain restaurants that have opened on Frederick Boulevard. That has really seen a lot of growth. It's got easy access from the interstate. Right off, there's a Frederick Boulevard exit. You've really seen a lot of traffic relief on Frederick Boulevard, especially the trucks running to the port. Once that connector opened, now they don't have to take Frederick Boulevard to get there. So it's freed up. I mean, it's come a long way. And I think you're going to just continue to see more growth. You're seeing more properties being brought up, and I think you'll see more development up there coming soon.
Love it. Love it. Next one, Old Town Portsmouth. Now, I know we touched on this a little bit, and I know previous to our airing of this episode, you just talked about living there and the walkability. Would you mind sharing a little bit of that as well for us, Keith?
Absolutely. Old Town is probably the biggest reason I moved back to Portsmouth. I love Old Town. I live on the water. I walk to work. I walk to bars and restaurants. I walk to the movie theater. If I want to go to Norfolk, I'll just walk next door, jump on the ferry and take the ferry across. And then I have all of downtown Norfolk that I can walk to. If I want to go out to Ghent, I can take the Elizabeth River, the rail, the tides, and go out to the medical center and walk up Colley Avenue. So there's so much opportunity to not need a car here. And that's one thing I really love about Old Town. And you see your neighbors walking. It's not just me. You see your neighbors walking. You start to learn names of people on the street that you wouldn't have met otherwise. And it's something about living in a walkable community and having that kind of lifestyle that makes Old Town really special. But what also makes Old Town special is the history that's here. Our oldest house dates back to the 1740s. We had Benedict Arnold was headquartered here. A lot of people don't realize that when we fought the last battle of the Revolution at Yorktown, it was from Portsmouth that the troops moved to Yorktown. They were all headquartered here, and they sailed from Portsmouth to Yorktown to fight that last battle. And and it was because of a local African-American spy, actually, who fed the misinformation to them. And that way they were able to do the blockade on the Chesapeake Bay and keep the British from replenishing the troops. So a lot of good history here that people don't know about. You know, the Underground Railroad ran through here. We've had visits from presidents. It's a great little town, and there's so many different walking tours you can do to learn things about the architecture. You can learn about the history. You can learn about the Underground Railroad, and you can just download those tours right off the internet, right off the website, and take the tour. So I love Old Town.
I love that, Keith, and I appreciate you sharing that. So all you listening in the Williamsburg, Yorktown area, you're welcome. Portsmouth helped with that, so
that's right.
All right, Keith, last rapid fire hot take question for you. Location of the Portsmouth City Jail, and just some context here. Currently, there is a Portsmouth City Jail that is to some locals in one of the most attractive waterside pieces of real estate that exists in Portsmouth area. Waterside in Norfolk, Virginia Beach has the oceanfront. Chesapeake has wonderful, great, swamps, lakes, and kayaking and boating activities. Portsmouth has a city jail right now. Would you mind sharing some possible workings that are being taken place, or maybe some insights as to why it's still that way and if it might be changing soon?
Yes, I will be happy to talk about that. The city jail was put there in the late 60s, that along with the entire civic complex. The police station was put there, City Hall was put there. And it was because there was so much urban flight. People were moving to the suburbs. People were moving to Virginia Beach. They wanted the land with the 2 acres and the big house. Now you're seeing more people wanting to come back in the urban area. If you look at what's happening with development in Norfolk, and also with the apartment buildings that are coming up here and the condos that are being built, you're seeing more people wanting to come back to the urban area. So there is a plan in place to completely demolish that entire civic complex, the jail included. It's City Hall, it's the old courthouse building, which is now it's sitting empty. It's just waiting to be demolished, but it's all connected underground with parking facilities, and so it has to be, until the city jail moves, that's the last link, and that is in the budget this year to be demolished. And as soon as we can, or to have another jail built or make other arrangements, let's put it that way. I'm not sure what those arrangements are going to be, but it was budgeted for this year. And so once that's done, the entire complex can come down. Back in 2005, there was a Vision 2005 plan for the city of Portsmouth, and it talked about making all roads lead to the water. So we have these barriers now at Crawford Street that don't allow the roads to lead to the water. And so I think you'll see those roads coming through, and more high-end condos, waterfront condos, and development coming into that area. There may be some additional retail space, restaurant space, that kind of thing too. There's also a space up at the Holiday Inn at the north end of of the Old Town that was, the Holiday Inn was torn down. So that land is also available for redevelopment.
I love it, Keith. And of course, to our listeners listening live or in the year 2023, 2024, This is to be continued. So if you want to be a part of everything Keith and the city of Portsmouth have going on, definitely check out the links in the description below. Keith, this has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity you've given us to take a behind the scenes look at what's going on in the local government and how it's influenced by the community involved. We really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. With that said, Keith, I'd love to roll out the red carpet for you. This is your time to share any special events, promotions, or anything you're excited to share about personal or city related or otherwise. The floor is yours.
Well, it's hard to talk about events because you don't know exactly when people are going to be watching a podcast, but we do have some events that are coming up. All of our holiday events. There's a lot of holiday events that happen here, so that's coming up. Then in the spring we have the springtime events. But the one thing that I think that we really want to talk about is the Old Town Portsmouth Farmers Market. It just got ranked the #2 farmers market in Virginia. They have over 65 vendors there each week, every Saturday morning. On the first Saturday of the month, they bring in an art market for another 45 vendors. And then they also have a flea market that goes on for another 80 vendors. So it's really the place to be on the first Saturday of the month. People come from all over. We're starting to see people from Virginia Beach and Smithfield and Suffolk. They're coming into the Portsmouth market because there's so much diversity there. So that's one thing that everybody can enjoy, and that's an ongoing program. A lot of times, the other things that people don't know about is that we have an indoor racetrack here that for Le Mans karts, and so it's the largest on the East Coast. And so you could go and do your race kart, your go-kart. They like go-karts, but they're faster. They're too fast for me, actually. I'm in the right lane, but no, that's an attraction that people don't know about. And then we have these beautiful outdoor parks that people don't know about, where you can kayak and look at bald eagles, or you can we've got out at City Park. It's just beautiful fishing and waterfront, and you can public boat launches and that kind of thing. So people don't think, they think of us as being urban, but we have these beautiful outdoor recreational places as well too. So those some of the things that we didn't talk about earlier that I wanted to make sure we got in here.
Absolutely, Keith. Absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that. What was the name of the go-kart place again?
It's called Le Mans Karting, and they have it's the largest indoor karting in on the East Coast. And then they also have laser tag, and then they just opened up a 25,000 square foot airsoft course.
Wow.
It's airsoft. I don't participate in airsoft, but I know there's a national organization for airsoft, and people travel for that. So that's really good for the tourism program.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Well, Keith, we really appreciate your time again. And then, of course, thank you to our dedicated listeners for checking out another episode of the Discover Virginia Beach podcast, where we're setting out to discover everything the Virginia Beach area has to offer, both in the 757 and Hampton Roads. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Definitely hit the like button, hit the heart icon, leave a comment if you found some value in this. And then, of course, if you're checking out on the podcast, leave a review. That tremendously helps me ask better questions each and every time. And of course, to for you all to let me know what type of guests you want to hear from next. With that said, we hope you enjoy your week, enjoy the rest of your time, and we'll catch you all in the next episode.